Aniya Mack was a bright young woman who had ambitions and dreams that went beyond the confines of her small town. She was the kind of student who always made those around her believe that she would go far in life. But what happened to Aniya Mack? Why did she suddenly vanish without a trace? And what were those secret texts that the police found on her phone? Join me today in this channel as we look into the disappearance of Aniya Mack and how it took a shocking turn when the police found her secret texts from a pastor. Aniya Mack's disappearance sparked alarm among her family, friends, and even the entire community. Days turned into weeks with still no sign of the missing teen. Search parties were organized, leaflets were distributed, and social media was flooded with hashtags demanding justice for Aniya. Everyone wanted answers, but no one seemed to have any. Her mother, Felicia, couldn't understand why her daughter would disappear without telling anyone. Her father, Andre, kept replaying every conversation he'd ever had with her, searching for a clue. Her best friend, Kayla, for she'd get to the bottom of this. No one could have predicted what they were about to uncover. Amongst the sea of concerned faces, there was one person who stood out: Pastor Isaiah Thomas. He was a beacon of hope and strength for the grieving family, offering words of comfort and prayers of hope during their darkest hours. As the community's religious leader, his presence brought solace to those tormented by Aniya's disappearance. People leaned on him, seeking guidance and strength in their time of need. They saw him as a pillar of the community, a man of God whose wisdom and compassion could help them navigate through their pain. However, little did they know that behind the comforting facade of the esteemed pastor lay a dark secret that would soon come to light, forever shattering their perception of him and their sense of security. As days passed, the investigation hit a wall. The police had no new leads and the community was starting to lose hope. It seemed as if Aniya had vanished into thin air, leaving behind no clues as to her whereabouts. Just when all hope seemed to be lost, a glimmer of a breakthrough appeared on the horizon. The police announced that they had found something on Aniya's phone that they believed could be crucial to the case. The discovery sent shock waves through the community, rekindling the flame of hope that had started to dwindle. Everyone was eager to know what this new piece of evidence was and how it might lead to finding Aniya. What they found was not what they expected. While going through Aniya's personal belongings, the police discovered a series of text messages that she had hidden from everyone, including her parents and best friends. These messages were not like the typical teenage chats you would expect, but rather had a disturbing twist. The texts were from Pastor Isaiah Thomas, the very person who had been offering support and prayers for Aniya's safe return. The revelations left the community in shock. The man they had looked up to for spiritual guidance and support was now at the center of a missing persons investigation. Trust and faith were shaken as people struggled to comprehend how someone they had respected could be involved in such a distressing situation. The discovery of these secret texts added a layer of complexity to the case that no one had anticipated. Questions swirled around the nature of the relationship between Aniya and the pastor, and what these messages might reveal about her disappearance. The investigation took a sharp turn, shifting from a search for a missing person to a hunt for the truth. The community was left grappling with the shock of it all. How could someone they trusted so much, someone who had offered his support and prayed for Aniya's safe return, be connected to her disappearance? The questions echoed through the town, leaving everyone stunned and confused. The once respected pastor was now a person of interest, and the community was struggling to come to terms with the possibility that one of their own could be involved in such a dark situation. The digital trail led investigators to a motel on the outskirts of town where Aniya was believed to have been taken by the pastor. With bated breath, they searched the room, hoping to find some evidence or answers. What they found inside the room was both shocking and heartbreaking. They found pictures of Aniya that had been taken on the day she disappeared. In these images, she appeared to be with the pastor, and their body language suggested a disturbing level of familiarity. The discovery sent chills down the spines of the investigators, confirming their suspicions and painting a grim picture of what might have transpired. As they delved deeper into the evidence, they uncovered more disturbing details. The room contained personal belongings of Aniya, suggesting that she had been held there against her will. The investigators were horrified to find these items, realizing that Aniya had been in this room and at the mercy of the pastor. Each piece of evidence they uncovered added another layer of horror to the case, making it clear that the disappearance was no accident. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, revealing a disturbing secret relationship between Aniya and the pastor. The community was in shock. The man they had revered as a beacon of hope and strength was now exposed as a deceitful predator. The revelation left them questioning everything they had seen and heard, wondering how they had been deceived for so long. The sense of betrayal was palpable, as the image of the respected pastor was shattered, replaced by the realization that he had been exploiting Aniya's vulnerability for his own sinister purposes. The community was left reeling, struggling to come to terms with the revelation and searching for answers. But the truth didn't stop there. As the investigation continued, more shocking details emerged. It was discovered that the pastor had been grooming Aniya for quite some time. He had manipulated her into a false sense of trust, taking advantage of her vulnerability and naivety. The extent of his manipulation was staggering, leaving the community appalled at the thought of how someone could exploit a young, impressionable mind in such a cruel manner. The revelation shook the community to its core. The safety and innocence of their town had been compromised by someone they had welcomed and trusted. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming as they grappled with the realization that a predator had been living among them, exploiting a child right under their noses. The community was left traumatized, questioning how they could have missed the signs and wondering how Aniya had endured such torment. The breakthrough came when investigators tracked the pastor's phone to a secluded cabin in the woods. With a heavy sense of foreboding, they approached the cabin, hoping for the best but fearing the worst. What they found inside was devastating. The pastor had taken his own life, leaving behind a note that contained a horrifying confession. In his final moments, he admitted to his crimes, revealing the extent of his manipulation and abuse of power. The discovery of the pastor's suicide note provided closure to some extent, confirming the darkest suspicions and shedding light on his twisted motives. The community was left stunned, coming to terms with the gravity of the betrayal and the magnitude of the abuse that Aniya had suffered. The revelation of the pastor's confession added a tragic chapter to the already heartbreaking case, leaving them to mourn not only the loss of an innocent soul but also the shattering of their faith and trust. In the aftermath of the shocking discovery, the community rallied together to support Aniya's family and friends. The outpouring of love and sympathy was overwhelming as people came together to grieve the loss of a bright young soul. The news of Aniya's disappearance and the subsequent discovery of the pastor's confession sent shockwaves throughout the town. The tight-knit community was left reeling, struggling to comprehend the depth of the tragedy that had struck their midst. The revelation of the pastor's involvement and his ultimate demise left them questioning how such darkness could have lurked beneath a seemingly pious facade. As the community mourned the loss of Aniya, legal proceedings began against the pastor's estate. The focus shifted to ensuring that justice was served for Aniya, holding those responsible accountable for their actions. The court proceedings were intense, bringing the horrifying details of the case to the forefront. The evidence presented painted a grim picture of the pastor's manipulative and abusive behavior, leaving the community appalled and outraged. The legal battles were not just about seeking justice for Aniya, but also about holding the perpetrators accountable and preventing such horrors from happening again. The community watched as the wheels of justice turned, hoping that the outcome would bring a sense of closure and prevent other families from enduring the same pain. In the wake of the tragedy, Aniya's family and supporters worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive. They organized fundraisers, participated in awareness campaigns, and advocated for stricter measures to protect children from exploitation. Aniya's legacy became a symbol of hope and resilience, inspiring others to speak out against abuse and seek justice for victims. Through their efforts, Aniya's story continued to impact the community, reminding them of the importance of vigilance and support. As the years passed, the community began to heal, but the scars of the tragedy remained. Counseling services were made available to those affected, helping them process their grief and trauma. The shared experience forged a sense of unity and empathy among the residents. Although the memory of Aniya Mack and the shocking revelation about the pastor's betrayal continued to haunt the community. Why? Their trust in religious figures was shaken, and the idyllic image of their town was forever tarnished. Despite the pain and suffering caused by the pastor, the community found strength in their unity and their determination to honor Aniya's memory. They worked together to create a safer environment for children, ensuring that Aniya's story would not be forgotten. The legacy of this young soul became a driving force for positive change, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, hope and healing can be found.